The church glowed with soft June light, stained glass windows casting colorful patterns across the pews. It was June 15, 2025, and I, Abigail Turner, stood at the altar, cradling my 6-month-old son Noah, as the priest prepared for his baptism. At 28, I'd weathered enough heartbreak to fill a lifetime, but today was meant to be about hope, a fresh start for Noah, wrapped in love. My parents stood beside me, their smiles warm and steady. My best friend Lily, the godmother, adjusted her dress, her eyes misty with pride. Yet in the back row, a shadow loomed, my ex-mother-in-law, Evelyn Harris, clutching her purse like it held state secrets. The divorce from Ethan Harris had been finalized a year ago, a grueling unraveling of a marriage that collapsed under his lies and infidelity.
We'd met in college, young and reckless, and married at 23.
By 25, I was pregnant with Noah, and by 26, I was a single mother, discarded by Ethan's wealthy family. The Harrises, Evelyn in particular, had never seen me as worthy. I was a middle-class girl, a teacher's daughter, with no claim to their world of old money and influence. They'd made that clear when Ethan insisted I sign a prenup before our wedding, a document I barely skimmed in my lovesick haze. It protected the Harris fortune, ensuring I'd leave with nothing if the marriage failed. And when it did, Evelyn wielded that prenup like a weapon, leaving me penniless, fighting for scraps to secure Noah's future. I'd invited Evelyn to the baptism out of obligation, hoping to keep things civil for Noah's sake. Ethan hadn't bothered to show, which didn't surprise me. He'd seen Noah twice since the divorce, too caught up in his new life, new girlfriend, new penthouse, new excuses. But Evelyn's presence set my nerves on edge. Her gray eyes tracked every moment, her lips pressed into a thin line. She sat alone, her tailored navy suit stark against the wooden pew, her purse gripped tightly in her lap. I tried to focus on the priest's words, on Noah's soft coos, but her stare was a weight I couldn't shake. The ceremony began, the priest's voice steady as he blessed the water. Lily stepped forward, promising to guide Noah with faith and love. My parents beamed, their hands clasped. I held Noah closer, his tiny fingers curling around mine, and for a moment, I felt whole. This was my family, my strength, after everything the Harrises had taken. But as the priest poured water over Noah's head, a rustle from the back broke my calm. Evelyn stood, her purse still clutched, and moved toward the aisle. I tensed, expecting her to leave. Instead, she walked to the front, her heels clicking on the stone floor.
The priest pauset, confuset, es murmurs rippelt trug the Smolkraut.
My mother frowned, and Lily shot me a wary glance. Evelyn stopped a few feet from the altar, her expression unreadable, and opened her purse. My heart sank as she pulled out a folded document, its edges crisp despite years of storage. "Abigail," she said, her voice cutting through the silence, "we need to talk about this." She unfolded the paper, holding it up like a trophy.
Your prenup.
You thought you could rewrite history, but this is binding. The church seemed to shrink, the air sucked out. My parents gasped, and Lily stepped closer, her hand on my arm.
Noah fusset, sensing my tension. I starred at the document, my mind racing.
The prenup? Why now, at my son's baptism, in front of everyone? Evelyn's lips curved into a faint, triumphant smile, and I realized this wasn't spontaneous. She'd planned this, waited for the perfect moment to strike. "Evelyn, this isn't the place," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "This is Noah's day." "Oh, it's about Noah," she replied, her tone icy. "You've been petitioning for child support, claiming Ethan's obligations. But this prenup, signed by you, waives any claim to Harris assets, including support for any children. You agreed to it." My stomach dropped. I vaguely remembered the prenup's clauses, but a waiver for Noah's support? That couldn't be right. I'd been young, trusting, and Ethan had rushed me through the signing, promising it was just paperwork. Evelyn had been there, too, hovering, her approval contingent on my compliance. Had I missed something that cruel? "That's not true," I said, clutching Noah tighter. "I'd never sign away Noah's rights." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, waving the document. "It's right here, Abigail. You can't play the victim now. You're trying to extort my son, and I won't allow it." The priest cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Ma'am, please, this is a sacred moment."
Sackred.
Evelyn interrupted, her voice sharp. This woman is a liar. She's using her child to manipulate my family.
Enough. My Vater's voice boomed, startling even Evelyn.
He moved to my side, his face red with anger.
You're out of line.
Leave now. Evelyn didn't flinch.
Illiven Abigail acknowledges the truth.
She's not getting a cent. Lily grabbed my hand, whispering, "Don't let her do this.
We'll fight it."
I nodded, but my mind was spinning. The congregation, friends, neighbors, distant relatives, watched in stunned silence. Humiliation burned through me, but so did anger. Evelyn wasn't just attacking me, she was threatening Noah's future, using a document I barely understood to strip us bare. The priest, regaining control, ushered Evelyn back to her seat, urging calm. The ceremony resumed, but the joy was gone. I went through the motions, my arms trembling as I held Noah. When it ended, I avoided the reception in the church hall, slipping out with Lily and my parents. Evelyn left without another word, her purse tucked under her arm, the prenup presumably back inside. At home, I put Noah to bed, his peaceful face a stark contrast to the storm inside me. Lily stayed, pouring tea as we sat at my kitchen table. "She planned that," Lily said, her voice low. "She wanted to humiliate you, make you back off." "I know," I said, staring at my hands. "But that prenup, what if she's right? What if I sign something that screws Noah over?" "Then we fight it," Lily said fiercely.
You wäre coerced, Abby.
"That's not legal. We'll get a lawyer, dig into it." "Evelyn's scared because you're pushing for child support. This is her trying to shut you down." I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me.
The prenup was a ghost from my past, a mistake I'd made in love.
Now it was a weapon, and Evelyn was wielding it with precision. As I lay awake that night, Noah's soft breaths filling the silence, I made a vow. I'd uncover the truth behind that document, expose Evelyn's manipulations, and protect my son. This wasn't just about money. It was about justice, for me and Noah, against a family that had tried to break us. The morning after Noah's baptism, June 16, 2025, I woke with a headache and a fire in my chest. Evelyn's stunt at the church, waving that prenup like a guillotine, had left me shaken but resolute. I sat at my kitchen table, Noah babbling in his high chair, while I sipped coffee and replayed her words. She'd claimed the prenup waived my right to child support, a clause I didn't remember signing. At 28, I'd learned the hard way that love could blind you to fine print, but I wasn't the naive bride anymore. If Evelyn thought she could scare me into submission, she was wrong. Lily arrived at 9, her laptop under her arm and a determined glint in her eyes. "We're getting answers," she said, setting up at the table. "First, we need a lawyer. Someone who can tear that prenup apart." I nodded, spooning mashed peas into Noah's mouth. "I've got a name, Sarah Klein. She's a family law attorney, helped a co-worker with a custody case. I called her last night."
She's meeting us tomorrow.
"Good," Lily said, opening her laptop. "Until then, let's dig into the Harises. Evelyn's not acting alone. Ethan's probably in on this, and maybe their lawyer too." The thought of Ethan stung. We'd been married for 3 years, and I'd believed in our future. Until I found texts from his mistress, a co-worker named Vanessa, 6 months into my pregnancy. When I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He moved out, and Evelyn swooped in, orchestrating the divorce with surgical precision. She'd ensured I got nothing, citing the prenup, while Ethan walked away with his trust fund intact. Now, with Noah's child support case pending, Evelyn was striking again. Lily pulled up old articles about the Harris family, their real estate empire a fixture in the city's elite circles. Evelyn, widowed a decade ago, controlled the family's charitable foundation, a polished front for her influence. Ethan, now 30, was a vice president in the company, though rumors hinted at his incompetence. One blog post caught my eye, a 2022 piece about a lawsuit against the Harises, claiming they'd pressured a former employee into signing a predatory contract. The case was settled out of court, but the pattern felt familiar. "That's her playbook," I said, wiping Noah's chin. "She bullies people into signing things they don't understand. Like me with the prenup." Lily frowned. We need the original document. Evelyn's copy could be doctored.
Do you have yours? I shook my head.
Ethan took all the paperwork when we split. I was too overwhelmed to fight for it. Then we start with Sarah, Lily said. She'll know how to get it. That afternoon, I dropped Noah at my parents' house and met Lily at the library, where we combed through public records. We found the Harris family's lawyer, Gregory Wells, who'd drafted the prenup. His name appeared in multiple Harris-related contracts, including the 2022 lawsuit. If anyone knew the prenup's secrets, it was him. I jotted down his office address, a plan forming. The next day, June 17th, I sat in Sarah Klein's office, a cozy space lined with law books. Sarah, a sharp woman in her 40s, listened as I recounted the baptism and Evelyn's claims. I handed her a photo of the prenup Evelyn had flashed, snapped by Lily during the chaos. This is unusual, Sarah said, studying the image. Prenups can't waive child support in most states. It's a child's right, not a parent's. But we need the original to confirm the language. I'll request it from Ethan's lawyer, but it could take weeks. Weeks. I said, my heart sinking. Evelyn's trying to shut down my child support case now.
Sarah leaned forward.
Then we fight dirty. If Evelyn coerced you into signing, we can challenge the prenup's validity. Tell me everything, how it was presented, who was there.
I closed my eyes, pulling up the memory.
It was March 2020, a month before our wedding.
Ethan had driven me to Gregory Wells' office, as Lake High Rise downtown.
Evelyn was there, her presence icy, and Wells, a balding man with a practiced smile, slid the prenup across his desk. Standard procedure, he'd said. Ethan squeezed my hand, urging me to sign quickly, promising it was just for show. I was 23 in love, and trusted him. The document was thick, the language dense. I signed without reading, Evelyn's approval the only reward. I felt rushed, I told Sarah. They didn't give me time to think, let alone get my own lawyer. That's coercion, Sarah said, jotting notes. We can argue you weren't properly advised. I'll file a motion to challenge the prenup and request discovery on all Harris-related documents from that period. But, Abigail, this could get ugly. The Harrises have deep pockets. I don't care, I said, my voice firm. They're not taking Noah's future. Sarah smiled, a spark of admiration in her eyes. Then let's get to work. Leaving her office, I felt a flicker of hope, but it was tempered by dread. That evening, I called my parents, updating them. My father, a retired teacher, was furious. Evelyn's a bully, he said. We'll support you, Abby.
Warte für Itakis.
My mother, softer but no less fierce, added, Noah's our priority. Don't let her scare you. Their words steadied me, but as I tucked Noah into bed, a text from an unknown number lit up my phone. Back off or you'll lose more than money.
My blood ran cold. The message echoed Evelyn's tactics, intimidation, control.
I screenshot it and sent it to Sarah, who replied immediately, keep everything. This could help our case. On June 18th, I met Lily at a coffee shop to strategize. She'd found an old college friend, Marcus, who worked in legal research and owed her a favor. He can dig into Wells, she said, sipping her latte. If there's dirt, shady deals, anything, we'll find it. I nodded, grateful for her tenacity. I'm going to confront Ethan, I said, surprising myself. He's dodging child support, but he's still Noah's father. Maybe I can get him to slip, admit something about the prenup. Lily raised an eyebrow.
Be careful.
He's under Evelyn's thumb. I know, I said, stirring my tea. But he's the weak link. If I can rattle him, we might get answers. That afternoon, I texted Ethan, asking to meet about Noah. To my surprise, he agreed, suggesting a park near his office the next day. As I prepared, I reread the threatening text, my resolve hardening. Evelyn had started this war, using the prenup to humiliate me at Noah's baptism. Now I was fighting back, not just for money but for truth. The Harrises had underestimated me, and that was their first mistake. The park was alive with the hum of summer on June 19, 2025, children laughing on swings and joggers weaving through the paths. I sat on a bench, Noah in his stroller beside me, his tiny hands clutching a rattle. My heart raced as I waited for Ethan, the man who'd once promised me forever, now a stranger dodging his responsibilities. Confronting him was a gamble, but after Evelyn's stunt at Noah's baptism and the threatening text, I needed answers. The prenup she'd waved like a weapon held secrets, and Ethan, the weak link in the Harris family, might let something slip. He arrived 10 minutes late, his tailored suit crisp but his eyes tired. At 30, Ethan looked older than I remembered, his charm dulled by stress or guilt, or maybe just indifference. He glanced at Noah, a flicker of something crossing his face, before sitting across from me, keeping his distance. "Abigail," he said, his voice clipped. "What's this about? I'm busy." "It's about Noah," I said, steadying my nerves. "And the prenup your mother shoved in my face at his baptism. She says it blocks child support. Is that true?" Ethan shifted, his gaze darting to the stroller. "You signed it, Abby. You knew what it was." "Did I?" I leaned forward, my voice low. "You and Evelyn rushed me through it, Ethan. I was 23 in love, and you said it was nothing. Now it's being used to screw over our son. Did you know about the child support clause?" He rubbed his neck, a telltale sign of discomfort. "Look, I didn't write it. Mom's lawyer did. She handles that stuff." "Gregory Wells," I said, watching his reaction. "He's been with your family forever. Did he put in a clause to cut Noah out, or was that your mother's idea?"
Etans Eisnerot.
"You're digging into things you don't understand. Just drop the child support case. It'll be easier for everyone."
Siehe for you, I shot back.
"You're living in a penthouse while I'm scraping by for Noah. He's your son, Ethan.
Don't you care?"
He looked at Noah again, longer this time, and for a moment, I thought I saw regret. But then his phone buzzed, and he stood, brushing it off.
"Ivy got to go.
"Talk to Mom's lawyer if you want answers. But don't expect to win, Abby."
You never do against her." He left without a goodbye, leaving ML sitting.
His deflection confirmed what I'd suspected. Evelyn was the puppet master, and Ethan was too spineless to challenge her. But his hesitation, that fleeting look at Noah, gave me hope. There was a crack in his armor, and I'd pry it open. Back home, I called Lily, updating her on the meeting. She was at her apartment, combing through Marcus's research on Gregory Wells. "Ethan's useless," she said, "but Marcus found something. Wells has a history of drafting shady contracts for the Harrises, backdated documents, ambiguous clauses. There's a chance your prenup was manipulated after you signed it."
My pulse quickened.
"Can we prove it?" "Not yet," she said. "But Marcus got access to Wells' old case files through a courthouse contact. He's looking for anything tied to the Harrises from 2020. If we find discrepancies, we can challenge the prenup's authenticity." I hung up, feeling a surge of momentum. That evening, Sarah Klein emailed an update. She'd filed a motion to obtain the original prenup and requested discovery on all Harris family legal documents from 2019 to 2021. She warned that Evelyn's legal team was already pushing back, claiming the child support case was frivolous. Sarah's advice was clear: gather evidence fast, before the Harrises buried us in paperwork. On June 20th, I visited my parents, needing their grounding presence. Noah played on a blanket in their living room, his giggles a reminder of why I was fighting. My mother made tea, her brow furrowed as I recounted Ethan's evasiveness and the threatening text. "Evelyn's desperate," she said, stirring her cup. "She wouldn't be this aggressive if she wasn't hiding something." My father, pacing, agreed. "That family's built on secrets. You need to be careful, Abby. They don't play fair." "I know," I said, my resolve hardening. "But I'm not backing down." The next day, June 21st, Lily called with news. Marcus had found a 2020 email chain between Wells and an unknown recipient, discussing amendments to a Harris family contract. The timing matched the prenup signing, and though the email was vague, it hinted at changes made without client approval. "It's not enough to nail them," Lily said, "but it's a start. Marcus is digging deeper, but Wells' office is locked down. We might need to get creative.
Creative ho.
I asked, rocking Noah as he fussed. Like accessing Wells' files directly, she said. Marcus knows someone who can help, a paralegal who used to work for Wells. She might have insight, maybe even access.
I hesitated.
Sneaking into Wells' files was risky, potentially illegal. But the Harises weren't playing by the rules, and Noah's future hung in the balance. Set it up, I said. But we need to be smart. No traces. On June 22nd, I met the paralegal Tara at a diner across town. She was in her 30s, nervous but willing to talk. Over coffee, she confirmed Wells' reputation for bending ethics. He'd backdate documents, fudge signatures, she said, glancing around. The Harises paid him well to keep things quiet.
Your prenup?
I remember it. Evelyn was in the office a lot, pushing for specific clauses. I don't know details, but it felt off. Did you see the child support waiver? I asked, my heart pounding.
Tara shook her head.
I wasn't privy to the final draft. But I can get you into Wells' digital archive. He never changed his passwords after I left. There's a backup server with old contracts. I stared at her, weighing the risk. Why help me? She sighed. The Harises ruined my cousin's business with a shady deal. Wells drafted it. I owe them one. By June 23rd, Tara had sent me a login for Wells' archive, with instructions to access it from a secure device. Lily borrowed a laptop from Marcus, untraceable, and we set up at her apartment that night. The archive was a maze of files, but after hours of searching, we found the prenup, dated March 2020, with a child support waiver buried in the fine print. But there was something else, a revision log, showing the waiver was added in April 2020, after I'd signed. This is it, Lily whispered, her eyes wide. They altered it without your consent.
I sah the file, my hands trembling.
This was proof of fraud, enough to challenge the prenup's validity. But as we logged out, my phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number. You're playing a dangerous game. Stop now. Fear gripped me, but so did rage. Evelyn was watching, but I was closing in. Tomorrow, I'd take the evidence to Sarah and plan our next move. The Harises had built their empire on lies, but I was about to tear it down, one truth at a time. The discovery of the altered prenup on June 23, 2025, felt like a lifeline in a storm. The revision log, buried in Gregory Wells' digital archive, proved the child support waiver was added after I'd signed, a clear act of fraud. As I sat in Lily's apartment, the laptop screen glowing with our find, the threatening text, "You're playing a dangerous game. Stop now," echoed in my mind. Evelyn Harris was circling, but I was done being prey. With Noah's future at stake, I was ready to strike back, armed with evidence that could unravel her control. On June 24th, I met Sarah Klein at her office, the prenup file and revision log printed and organized in a folder. Noah was with my parents, giving me space to focus. Sarah's eyes widened as she reviewed the documents, her pen tapping the desk. "This is huge, Abigail," she said. "Altering a signed contract without consent is fraud. We can file a motion to invalidate the prenup entirely, not just the child support clause. But we need to move fast, before the Harises bury this." "How fast?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "I'll draft the motion today," she said, "and file it tomorrow, June 25th. I'll also demand an emergency hearing on the child support case, citing the fraud. The threatening texts help, they show intimidation. But, Abigail, the Harises will hit back hard.
Are you ready for that?"
I nodded, though my hands trembled. "I have to be. For Noah." Sarah's expression softened. "You're tougher than they think. Keep any new threats or evidence, and stay safe. Evelyn's desperate if she's sending those texts." Leaving her office, I called Lily, who was still working with Marcus to dig into Wells' files. "Sarah's filing tomorrow," I told her. "But I'm worried. Evelyn's not just going to let this happen." "She's rattled," Lily said. Marcus found another email, Wells to Evelyn, 2020, about securing the agreement. It's vague, but it suggests she knew about the prenup changes. "We're looking for more. but Wells' server is getting tighter. Someone's noticed the access.
Achille ran trug me.
Tara's login? Maybe, Lily said. We're being careful, but you should watch your back. That afternoon, I picked up Noah, his gummy smile easing my tension. At home, I double-checked the locks, the threatening texts replaying in my head. I forwarded the latest to Sarah, who added it to the case file. As I rocked Noah to sleep, I vowed to protect him, no matter the cost. Evelyn had humiliated me at his baptism, wielding the prenup to control us. Now, I had the power to fight back. On June 25, Sarah filed the motion, and the waiting game began. I tried to focus on work, grading papers for my part-time tutoring job, but my mind was elsewhere. Lily called that evening with an update. Marcus had found a 2020 memo from Wells, mentioning a meeting with Evelyn and an unnamed consultant about family assets. The memo hinted at payments, possibly to ensure the prenup's alterations stayed hidden. It wasn't definitive, but it was another piece of the puzzle. We need that consultant's name, I said, pacing my living room. If they were paid off, they could testify. Marcus is on it, Lily said. But we're hitting walls. The Harises are locking things down. The next day, June 26, I received a call from an unknown number. Bracing myself, I answered, expecting another threat. Instead, it was Tara, the paralegal. Abigail, we've got a problem, she said, her voice low. Wells knows someone accessed his archive. He's blaming me. I'm safe, but he's tightening security. You need to use what you have now, because that server's going offline soon.
My heart sank. Tara, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
I'll be fine, she said. Just nail them. For both of us. I thanked her, guilt gnawing at me for putting her at risk. I called Sarah, who urged me to stay calm. The motion's filed, and we have enough to argue fraud, she said. If Wells is panicking, that's good, it means we're close. But the Harises didn't wait. On June 27, I was at the grocery store with Noah when a man in a suit approached me in the parking lot. He was tall, his smile too polished, and handed me an envelope. From the Harris family, he said, then walked away before I could respond. Inside was a letter from their lawyer, demanding I drop the child support case and withdraw the prenup challenge, or face a defamation lawsuit. Attached was a photo of me meeting Tara at the diner, timestamped June 22.
My blood ran cold.
They were watching me, documenting my moves. I drove home, hands shaking, and called Sarah, sending her the letter and photo. This is intimidation, she said, her voice sharp. They're trying to scare you into backing off. I'm adding this to the case and requesting a restraining order against Evelyn and her associates. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every creak in the apartment.
Noah senset my uniase, fussing until dawn.
On June 28, Lily came over, her face grim. Marcus got the consultant's name, she said.
It's Paul Gresong, a private financial advisor.
He worked with Wells in 2020, handling discrete transactions for the Harises. Marcus found a payment record, $50,000 from Evelyn to Grayson, dated April 2020, right after the prenup was altered. I stared at her, my mind racing. That's a bribe. Can we get Grayson to talk? Maybe, Lily said. Marcus tracked him down. He's retired, lives an hour away. But if Evelyn's watching you, we need to be careful. We decided I'd approach Grayson alone, keeping Lily and Marcus out of the Harises' crosshairs. On June 29, I drove to Grayson's suburban home, leaving Noah with my parents.
The house was modest, a y from the Harris Empire.
Grayson, a wiry man in his 60s, answered the door, his expression wary when I mentioned the Harises. I'm out of that world, he said, but he let me in. Over coffee, I showed him the payment record. His face paled. I didn't know what it was for, he said, his voice low. Evelyn hired me to handle some transfers, said it was for family privacy. Wells drafted the documents. I never saw the prenup, but I suspected something wasn't right. Will you testify? I asked, my heart pounding. He hesitated, then nodded. If it's subpoenaed, yes. I'm tired of their games. I left with his contact information, hope surging. But as I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, emergency hearing set for July 1st. Harises are countersuing for harassment. Be ready. My elation turned to dread. Evelyn was escalating, and the hearing was days away. I had Grayson, the revision log, and the threatening texts, but the Harises had money and power. As I tucked Noah into bed, his tiny hand in mine, I steeled myself for the fight ahead. Evelyn had ambushed me at the baptism, but I was building an arsenal of truth, and I'd use it to protect my son. The days leading to the emergency hearing on July 1, 2025, were a blur of preparation and dread. Evelyn Harris had escalated her attack, countersuing me for harassment while wielding the fraudulent prenup to block Noah's child support. But I had ammunition now: the altered prenup's revision log, Paul Grayson's tentative agreement to testify, and a paper trail of threatening texts and intimidation. As I sat in my apartment on June 30th, Noah asleep in his crib, I reviewed Sarah Klein's strategy with Lily over the phone. The hearing was our chance to expose the Harises' lies, but Evelyn's wealth and influence loomed large. This was more than a legal battle, it was a fight for my son's future and my own redemption. On the morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully, choosing a navy blazer and skirt to project confidence. My parents took Noah, their hugs steadying me. "You're stronger than she is," my mother whispered. I clung to that as I drove to the courthouse, Lily meeting me outside. Sarah was already there, her briefcase stuffed with evidence. "We're ready," she said, her eyes sharp. "Grayson's on standby, and the judge is tough but fair. Stay calm, and we'll dismantle their case." The courtroom was stark, its wooden benches filled with a few spectators and Harris family lawyers. Evelyn sat at the defense table, her tailored suit impeccable, her expression serene but cold. Ethan was absent, predictably, leaving his mother to fight his battles. Gregory Wells, their lawyer, adjusted his tie, avoiding my gaze. I took my place beside Sarah, my heart pounding as the judge, a silver-haired woman named Judge Lawson, entered. The hearing began with Sarah's motion to invalidate the prenup, citing fraud. She presented the revision log, proving the child support waiver was added post-signing, and detailed my coercion in 2020. Rushed into signing without counsel, pressured by Ethan and Evelyn. She submitted the threatening texts and the parking lot letter, arguing intimidation. "The Harises have manipulated legal processes to deny Ms. Turner and her son their rights," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We request the prenup be voided and child support reinstated." Wells countered with a slick defense, claiming the prenup was standard and I'd signed willingly. He dismissed the revision log as a technical glitch, and called the texts unverified. Their harassment suit, he argued, was justified. I'd slandered the Harises by alleging fraud. Evelyn took the stand, her voice smooth as she portrayed herself as a protective grandmother, accusing me of exploiting Noah for money. Her performance was flawless, but I caught a flicker of unease when Sarah mentioned Grayson. Then it was my turn. I walked to the stand, my legs unsteady but my resolve firm. Under Sarah's questioning, I recounted the prenup signing, Ethan's assurances, Evelyn's presence, Wells' haste. I described the baptism, Evelyn's public attack, and the threats that followed. "I signed a document I didn't understand," I said, looking at the judge. "They used it to take everything from me and my son. I'm fighting for his future, not their fortune." Wells cross-examined, trying to paint me as greedy, but I held my ground, my voice clear. The judge's expression remained neutral, but she asked pointed questions about the revision log, making Wells squirm. Sarah called Grayson as a surprise witness, his testimony via video link. He admitted to the 2020 payment from Evelyn, confirming it was tied to discrete contract adjustments. "I didn't know the details," he said, "but I suspected misconduct." Wells objected, but the judge allowed it, her pen moving quickly. The hearing stretched into the afternoon, tension building with every argument. Sarah's final statement was a masterstroke, weaving the evidence into a narrative of deceit. "The Harises altered a legal document to defraud Ms. Turner," she said. "Their threats and lawsuits are attempts to silence her. Justice demands the prenup's dismissal and protection for her child." Judge Lawson recessed to deliberate, leaving us in a nerve-wracking wait. Lily squeezed my hand in the hallway, whispering, "You were incredible." Sarah was cautiously optimistic, but I couldn't relax, not with Evelyn's icy stare lingering in my mind. An hour later, we reconvened for the ruling. The evidence is compelling, Judge Lawson began, her voice measured. The revision log and Mr. Grayson's testimony strongly suggest fraud in the prenup's alteration. I'm ruling the prenup invalid, pending further investigation. The child support case will proceed, with temporary payments ordered from Mr. Harris effective immediately. The harassment suit is dismissed, and I'm issuing a restraining order against Mrs. Harris for the documented threats.
Relief flooded me, tears pricking my eyes.
Evelyn's composure cracked, her lips tightening as Wells whispered furiously.
Sarah grippet my Schulter, a rare smile breaking trug.
We did it, Abigail, she said. This is just the start. But the victory wasn't complete. As we left the courthouse, Evelyn approached, her heels clicking on the marble floor. You think this changes anything? She hissed, her voice low.
You'll never be free of us.
I met her gaze, my fear replaced by fire.
You're wrong, Evelyn.
You lost today because you underestimated me. Keep coming, and I'll keep fighting. She turned away, her purse clutched tightly, a shadow of the woman who'd ambushed me at Noah's baptism. That night, I celebrated with Lily and my parents, Noah giggling in my lap. The child support would ease our struggles, but more than that, I'd reclaimed my voice. Sarah warned that the Harises might appeal, and a fraud investigation into Wells was likely, but I was ready. Evelyn had tried to break me, using the prenup as a weapon, but I'd turned it against her. On July 2nd, I took Noah to the park, the summer sun warm on our faces. As he cooed in his stroller, I felt a weight lift. The baptism, meant to be a sacred moment, had been tainted by Evelyn's cruelty, but it sparked my fight. I'd exposed her lies, protected my son, and found strength I didn't know I had. The Harises' empire was cracking, and I was the wedge. Whatever came next, appeals, threats, or silence, I'd face it with Noah by my side, our future no longer in their grip.